You see here, there's a little bit of depth inside the nose here, where I put a little bit of, I painted that just a little bit there. You can see it inside here, just a little creamy color. And that just gives it just a little bit more. A lot of people don't do that, they just leave them black, but I give them just a little dust in there, and that way it just gives it just a little better look. It shows you that your nostrils are deep. One thing on a good mount, you'll notice if the nostrils aren't deep in there, you know that that's kind of an iffy mount, I guess, or done by somebody that's just learning. Those type of mounts shouldn't go out of a shop anyway. You should have some depth into your nostrils. And then if you want to, you take these little hairs like this, if they're laid back. What I do is I just pull them so they stick out a little bit, so they aren't laying up against the hide, and that gives a deer a nice look too. You can see those little hairs hanging down, and deer have a lot of little hairs on them. And we'll just go ahead. You can see them right here. They're just little bitty thin hairs. Just pull them down and they'll look good. Same way around the eyes. Just pull them up so they aren't laying flat, and that'll give that deer a much better look. Sometimes, like on a short-haired deer, if I take it to a show or something, some of these hairs around here, I'll just actually take a little bit of Mod Podge and just put a little bit of it's kind of like just a little droplets of moisture, because when a deer breathes, he'll have little droplets of moisture. I've actually seen this in the wild where they'll have little drops of moisture on their whiskers here, I guess you'd call it. But anyway, and then we'll check around the antler bases to make sure, like this here. Check around your antler bases. Make sure that your hair is up against the antler burr. And if it isn't, see what the problem is. Your skin might have come a little bit away. Take in a little tack hammer and hit that right there, and that'll push that in. Normally it will. If it doesn't, take a little super glue, put in there against the horn burr, and just press that right up there with a tool of some kind, of pointed awl or something. Just put your super glue right in here, and just go ahead and take your pointed awl and just push that right in there like so, and that'll look nice. One thing you don't want to see, you don't want to look down in here and see the skull. There's no reason for that. Just take a little extra time and you'll get her. But anyway, this deer is going to be a nice deer. It shows good detail. But when this gets done drying, I'll come back and we'll look at that again. Alright, we're back here. We're going to finish up this whitetail video. And I'm going to be moving this around a little bit so you can see. What we're going to do, we're going to finish up the eyes. You can see where I tacked around the antler here with little nails. What that does, I know I'd use enough glue and stuff like that, but I don't want that antler, I don't want that hair coming away from that burr too much. You can always, if it does come away, you can always take and put a little super glue in there and push the hair up around there. But anyway, this guy here, he got a nice deer, and we're gonna try to do a real nice job on it. You just go ahead and pull all your pins out. What I do is I put 2 pins in the tear duct area there that you could see when we mounted this up. Pull those out, and then I got one in the corner of the eye. Then we got some pins in here too. I'm going to take my glasses off so I can show you. We got a pin right here that we used in the lower eyelid. We're going to pull that out. We're going to pull this corner pin back here in the back side of the eye out. You could try to paint over them, but for some reason it seems like these pins don't take paint real well. So we're going to go ahead and try to pull that baby out of there. And get that out of there one way or the other. Sometimes these pins, man, they can be a real bear to get out. But you can get them after a while. Just keep working on them. That way you got just one little bitty hole there that you can take your awl or whatever tool you're using. Just go ahead and push the skin in around it or the hair, and you can hide that hole nicely. We've got one in the corner of the eyelid right here. Let's see if we can see that here. Get a little side grip on there. Got her out. Then what I do is around the mouth here. You can see this here around the mouth. I put pins in there to hold it, because sometimes if you use just glue, it'll tend to come apart, especially if you don't have a flushing machine. Now I get mine plenty thin. I make sure the lips are thin. I could probably get away without using any pins on there, but for a beginner that doesn't have a flushing machine, I don't think you can do it. You can get them thin if you really work at it, but it'd be difficult. Anyway, we're pulling these pins out. These are quilting pins. They got a nice T head on them. Push those around pretty easy. Anyway, what we're doing, this is going to be a real finishing deer. I mean, it takes time to do a deer. The finishing part, I think, takes as much time as anything else, because this is where this is what brings the deer alive right here. We want to make sure that this deer looks like he just stepped out of the field or just walking up to you in the woods or whatever. We want this deer to look good. Anyway, we're still doing the same thing. I'm just on the other side here. I'm going to turn this around a little bit, and you can still see me working. I'm going to pull all these pins out. Now we'll get down to this real detail work, like I get my epoxy sculpt in here and stuff like that. You'll see what we're doing. Anyway, that makes for a nice tight lip. One thing you don't want to do is you don't want to look at a deer and see a big gap in the lip. You don't want to see the nostrils filled up. You want to have deep nostrils. You want to have a closed lip. And a shrunken nose is a no-no. But it's hard to avoid any shrinkage on your nose. So that's why I use epoxy sculpt on here and that. But anyway, this is going to be a nice deer. I'm getting the eye all done. I'll get these pins out. Don't press against that eye too much with your tools. You don't want to break that or crack that eye.